Evening. This Trenton Board of Education is now open. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Yolanda Lopez,
Present.
Gerald Trueheart, Gene Bowie, Addie Daniels Lane,
Present.
Austin Edwards,
Present.
Denise Johnson, Sasa Montagna,
Present.
Jeannie Weeklam,
Present.
Larry Trailer.
Present.
We have a quorum.
We also have present our student board member. She's not, okay. Thank you. The New Jersey Sunshine Law. The New Jersey Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right to the public to have advanced notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted on. On the rules of this act, the Trenton Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting by publicizing the date, time, and place, therefore posted on the webpage, the Times, and the Star Ledger. Formal action will take place at this meeting. Our mission statements. All students will graduate with a vision for their future, motivated to learn continually and prepared to succeed in their choice of college or career. May I please have a motion to adopt today's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Sorry. I need to, give me 1 second. We have a couple of amendments here.
Teaching and learning. No, there's something else. Resources. Resources and teaching and learning.
Okay, I asked to move the agenda with the following amendments to the teaching and learning. We have a resolution to approve a dissertation. In human resources, we have additional creations, new hires, transfers, contractual entitlements, and stipend appointments, and an amendment to the executive agenda, adding the matter of board grievance number 0523-10-032.
Now. So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Yolanda Lopez,
Yes.
Gerald Trueheart.
Yes.
Gene Bowie,
Yes.
Denise Johnson,
Yes.
Austin Edwards,
Yes.
Jeannie Weeklam, Addie Daniels Lane,
Yep. Yes.
Sasa Montagna.
Yes.
Larry Trailer.
Yes.
Motion passed.
At this time, I'm going to have our superintendent present to us our students,
Our superstars.
our superstars.
Yes. So just want to welcome everyone. Just want to welcome everyone to this spring evening or spring week. It's supposed to be warm, and what a great treat to have our young people in front of us performing this evening. Tonight, you get to hear from the talented Hedgepeth Williams Band and Choir. And I'm just going to share a little bit of information and I'll let them take off. So we're so excited to hear them this evening. And Ms. Hill, did we have art? Oh, we do have the art. So I can make sure that I call attention to the art. Hedgepeth Williams Intermediate School's presentation will celebrate Black History Month and commemorate the 80th anniversary of the Supreme Court's decision to desegregate junior high school number 2. The band will perform My Girl, led by Mr. Danny Hall, and the choir will sing an original song, His Light Still Shines, honoring Dr. Martin Luther King, written by Les by Dr. Lena Uri. The art display depicts students' interpretations of the Hedgepeth and Williams story. It was created under the direction of Ms. Colleen Yesman, who exposed students to various art mediums and genres. Without further ado, I present to you the Hedgepeth Williams team, band, and crew.
Good evening to Trenton's Board of Education members, our superintendent, Mr. Earl, our principal, Ms. Hill, our vice principal, Mr. Green, our teachers, our teachers and parents from Hedgepath Williams Middle School of the Arts. We greet and honor you all. We're going to sing a tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. called "His Light Still Shines." That was written by our music teacher, Dr. Yuri. Accompanying us on keyboard will be Mr. Hall, our instrumental music teacher. Although Dr. King is no longer with us, his dream of freedom and equality for all of us still lives and his light still shines.
If there are any empty seats, those that are standing, would you please take those empty seats? Thank you. Mr. Mosley, let us know when we're good to go. Are we good to go?
Good evening. Welcome back. Thank you again to our students from Hedgepeth Williams. We're so excited to start the spring off that way and look forward to so much more from our young people. This evening, we have two presentations. We have an ethics presentation that we would like to share with the board. Ms. Mary Ann Friedman from NJ School Boards will provide our ethics presentation today. So come on up.
Oh, okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. They say in the entertainment field, never follow children. Oh, well. It's great to be here. I am your field service representative for Mercer County. I used to have Mercer County from 2011 to 2014, and I'm very grateful to have you back again. So without further ado, I'm going to start off. This is about ethics for school board members. And so our disclaimer is really about if you have any kind of questions about conflicts of interest or things that might be legal or unlegal to do as board members, you can speak with me, you can speak with one of our attorneys at NJSBA, or you can speak to your board attorney. So this is not a legal presentation, this is an ethics presentation from a field service perspective and a board member perspective. So is it okay if I turn this way? Okay, there we go. Okay, so public service really is a core value that you are elected to serve and that hopefully will provide you with a lot of reward. My 9 years on my local board of education was not always fun. It was hard. It was difficult at some points in time, but it was also very rewarding. So I want to thank you for everything that you're doing for your students, your staff, and your community. So the School Ethics Act was developed in 1991 by the legislature, and it was essential that the conduct of board members and board officials and school officials envelop the trust and evoke the trust and confidence of the people. And then 9 years later, they came up with ways that you can avoid conduct that might lead to mistrust and lack of confidence from the public. So the School Ethics Act established the School Ethics Commission, or the SEC. For tonight's purposes, the SEC is the School Ethics Commission and not the Securities Exchange Commission. The prohibited acts will tell you about the conflicts of interest that you may have, mandatory training requirements for board members, and I'll go over those in a few minutes, the Code of Ethics, which was developed 9 years after the act was established, and then disclosure statements. So anybody who is new to the board this year as of January will have already completed those personal financial disclosure statements. And then anybody who's been on the board from last year, you will need to do those by April 30th of this year. So who's accountable? The conflicts of interest and the disclosure statements pertain to all school officials, and you are school officials as board members. So board members and charter school trustees are school board officials. Professional NJSBA staff and officers, we have to complete all of this information as well. They apply to us. And then administrators, anybody who holds a certificate that allows them to either make recommendations to appoint staff or acquisition of property and services. And then the Code of Ethics and mandatory training applies to school board members and charter school board members only. So who enforces the act? The SEC is made up of 9 people. They are appointees by the governor. There are 9 total, 2 school board members, 5 non-school officials, and 2 school administrators. And they make up the 9 members that are appointed by the governor for a 3-year term. Not more than 5 can be from any one political party. So it's meant to be really bipartisan. And the SEC's jurisdiction is there are 2 things that they can do. They can look at advisory opinions, and advisory opinions are only available to be written by school officials. And that's about something that hasn't happened yet, but you think may happen. So for instance, when I got onto my Board of Education way back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, one of the other women who ran at the same time came to the board after we were sworn in and said, we had April elections at the time, and said, my husband is thinking of running for our town council. Would there be any conflicts of interest if he is elected? So we asked for an advisory opinion, and we got back from the SEC a very nice letter that talked about the thing, if he was elected, the things that she would not be able to participate in if he participated in them from a township committee perspective. And those things were any shared services that we might do with the town council, any land that we might try and acquire from the township. And then remember when you had April elections back in those days when there were no November elections, you had to take if your budget failed in the vote, you had to go to your town council and ask them to hold you kind of in the place that you were. So if we had to do that, she would not be able to go to the town council and speak to them if her husband was going to be part of the body that created the decision as to whether we would lose money or maintain our budget. So that's something that's only done on a proposed level. It hasn't happened yet. And then ethics complaints are acts of complaints that anyone can file. Anyone can file an ethics complaint against a board member. And these are things that they feel have happened, acts that have already happened. So something that has already taken place. And the SEC has let us know that in any given year, on a yearly average, there are about 85 ethics complaints that are filed and about 35 advisory opinions that are filed. So if you see something from the SEC and it has a C in front of the numbers, the sequence of numbers, it's a complaint. If there's an A, it's an advisory opinion that they adjudicated on. So what training is mandatory? As you all know, anybody who was just sworn in January as a new board member needs to take Governance 1 within 90 days. That's new. It occurred with April elections last year, but it just started for November elections for this year for people who were sworn in January. And new board member orientation gives people the skills that the state feels are necessary for them to become a good board member. So it talks about board governance, it talks about CUSAC, it talks about HIB, harassment, intimidation, and bullying, the superintendent's evaluation, the Open Public Meetings Act, and the Code of Ethics. Then in year 2 of a 3-year term, board members need to go and take Governance 2, which is about finance and labor relations. By the end of year 3, you would need to take Governance 3, which is about student achievement. Any re-elected year, so any 4th year, any re-elected year after your first term, you would take Governance 4, and that's about legal updates. And JSBA is the official organization that is designed to, has been charged with providing all of the training for board members, and we do that through in-person training, live virtual training, and a self-paced online training. And I understand that everybody is in good stead and in good stead in terms of their training. So the other piece to the Ethics Act are the disclosure statements, and they're personal, financial, and relative disclosure statements. So anybody who is new would have had to have completed those by January 30th, within 30 days of their starting their service. and then anybody who's returning. So all of you who are returning board members, you'll need to complete those by April 30th. And then the penalties that are provided by the SEC or that are put into effect by the SEC are preliminary decisions, and then they go to the commissioner for formal approval. So what they can do is they can ask the commissioner for a reprimand, and that's a rebuke by the commissioner that what somebody did should not have happened. A censure is a formal disapproval by the commissioner, and that needs to be read at a board meeting, open session, and there's a resolution that needs to be read, states who the board member was and what their violation was. Suspension will bar somebody from engaging in any board activity for a certain period of time, and it's a designated period of time that they decide. And then removal is immediate termination. So all of those things are proposed by the SEC, and then they go to the Commissioner of Education for final approval. So I'm going to go through the Code of Ethics pretty quickly. The first one is, there are 10. The first one is, I'll uphold and enforce all laws, rules, and regulations of the State Board of Ed and court orders pertaining to schools. Desired changes shall be brought about only through legal and ethical procedures. The standards that you see below are what you would have to prove as evidence if you were accusing somebody of violating Tenet A. Okay, so for each tenet of the Code of Ethics, the standards change. The second is, I'll make decisions in terms of the educational welfare of children and will seek to develop and maintain public schools that meet the individual needs of all children regardless of their ability, race, creed, sex, or social standing. So again, the standards are what you would have to use as evidence to prove that somebody violated that tenet. The third is, confine my board action to policy making, planning, and appraisal, and will help to frame policies and plans only after the board has consulted those who will be affected by them. And this is your one of your main responsibilities, is to be a policy-making body. Those policies will usually come to you at the recommendation of the superintendent. Do you use Strauss Esme? Do you use us? Okay, so you'll get recommendations from Strauss Esme. I really encourage you to look at those recommendations that they make and any revisions that they propose to you, because it's often that you have to fill in blanks as to who's going to be responsible for pieces of that policy. And what I found, even when I was on my board, is that sometimes we would just blanketly approve the policy, and we were told very quickly that, no, you have to make sure that you're inserting who's responsible for all of these things. Okay? D is to carry out my responsibility not to administer, but together with my 4 fellow board members to see that the schools are well run. This is about not micromanaging the district. Okay, going through the chain of command, which I'll go through in a little bit, and really to make sure that you are permitting your superintendent, who is your one employee of the board, the one person that you employ, is administering to the schools. Okay, so you're up in the balcony looking down over all of Trenton and making decisions as to what's in the best interest of all of the kids in Trenton based on the recommendations of the superintendent. E is, I'll recognize that authority rests with the Board of Education and make no personal promises or take any private action that may compromise the board. So this is really important also. You really need to stay as bipartisan as you can, as non-political as you can, and look at what's in the best interest of all of the students here and follow and you can approve, or you can yay or nay a recommendation from the superintendent, but you really need to take into strong consideration what the recommendation is from the superintendent. Okay, and also make no personal promises. So if somebody calls you and asks you to handle their transportation problem or another problem, you need to refer them back to the chain of command and then let the superintendent, probably and the board president, know that Mrs. Friedman called. She was not happy with the transportation that her daughter has. I'm using myself as an example. And I let her know, then I let that Mrs. Friedman know what the chain of command was. And the chain of command is in place to get the situation resolved in the most expedient way. Okay, because if somebody goes right to the superintendent, or if a board member tries to take that issue on, it elongates the problem. It doesn't satisfactorily resolve it in any short period of time. It takes even longer. I'll refuse to surrender my independent judgment to special interest or partisan political groups, or to use the schools for personal gain or for the gain of friends. This is really important also. You need to make sure that you're staying nonpartisan, that you're doing what's in the best interest of all of the students here in Trenton. This is a big one. I'll hold confidential all matters pertaining to the schools, which if disclosed would needlessly injure individuals or the schools, and in all other matters, I'll provide accurate information and in concert with my fellow board members, interpret to the staff the aspirations of this community for its school. This is that situation where I always say, remember the commercials, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas from several years ago? What happens in executive has to stay in executive session, okay? It doesn't get broadcasted out to anybody. If somebody can't attend that particular executive session because they have a conflict, it doesn't mean that board members call them on their way home and say, this is what you missed. The conflicts of interest have been developed and identified as protections for the individual board members, then for the board, and then for the district. It's not a punishment. So if you have a family member, an immediate family member or relative who works in the district, those conflicts are to protect you from being accused of doing something that would be favorable in the favor of your family member or relative. Next, I'll vote to appoint the best qualified personnel available after consideration of the recommendation of the Chief Administrative Officer. So as I said, you have a right to say yay or nay to a vote and a recommendation from the superintendent, but you really need to take into strong consideration what he's proposing and what he's recommending to you. He has the educational background, the experience, and the certification to make those recommendations, and they come from where he feels what are in the best interests of all of your students. I'll support and protect school personnel and proper performance of their duties. This is about making sure that if you're out on the ball field or you're at the basketball courts or wherever you are at the soccer field, that if somebody's talking about a parent is talking about a staff member, you're not engaging in that conversation, okay? Because you can easily be accused of not supporting district personnel in the proper performance of their duties. And then last, I'll refer all complaints to the Chief Administrative Officer and act on the complaints at public meetings only after failure of an administrative solution. So this is where that chain of command comes in. So the chain of command really has been developed to be able to handle issues in the most expedient way. So you need to know from a parent perspective and community perspective what the chain of command is for folks. And then for staff, it's usually outlined in their negotiated agreement. Okay? So for issues that are brought to you by parents or community members or staff, this is not soliciting those issues or those problems by going into the schools and saying, so how's that new math program that we just approved, or how's that new science program? What do you think of this or that? If you have to go into the schools to pick up your child, do so, be pleasant, be cordial to the staff, but you don't want to be asking questions. So you're not soliciting. And then you're going to refer the member to the lowest level in the chain. So say it was a transportation issue, you would refer them back to the bus driver, then to the transportation coordinator, then to perhaps the principal of their school, maybe to an assistant superintendent, and then to the superintendent. And then if the superintendent is unable to resolve that problem, it would come to the Board of Education. So you are literally the court of last resort, okay? And then, as I said, after you've done that, you've referred folks through the chain of command, you let the superintendent and probably the board CC the board president, so she's aware also. And that lets them know that you've done your due diligence in providing that information to the public. Okay, some cases that were related to the Code of Ethics. I'm going to send you this PowerPoint tonight, so you'll be able to go through and you can click on any of those. See the C98-21, that was a complaint, so that's where that C comes in. And then it's always followed by 4 numbers, 2 numbers, a dash, and then 2 more numbers. The last 2 numbers are the year that it was adjudicated by the School Ethics Commission. So all of these had a violation of E, nor take any private action that may compromise the board. The first one was a board member copied and pasted information from a board email that contained non-public information and sent it out forwarded it to school officials. Okay, They revealed board's intercommunication that had potential to compromise the board. The information was considered confidential as the board hadn't yet voted on the contents, and so the SEC recommended a reprimand. That has not been decided yet by the commissioner when we developed this program. Another one was a member sent an email from a district account to a known political entity misrepresenting the intent of a rally at the district. They were using the board email gave the impression that the statements were on behalf of the board. So that was considered a violation and a reprimand. And then you can see some of these other ones. I'm not going to go through them all for you because I'm going to trust you to read them when you get them. And again, you can click on those links and you'll be able to see what the full decision was. Some other cases, a member accused the superintendent of changing a graduation date due to a personal conflict. The same member, as secretary of a local organization, was told by the principal that the chorus wouldn't be able to perform in an annual event, so they texted the chorus teacher to question why. So this was a violation. It put the chorus teacher in an uncomfortable situation and was tantamount actually to an investigation being done by the board member to find out why the choral concert was canceled, okay? There's a bunch of other ones in here that, again, I'm going to let you read through these. So prohibited acts, these are acts that can cause a conflict of interest. You need to recuse yourself if there's a benefit to you as a school official or to your immediate family due to any business interest, position to secure unwarranted privileges, advantages or employment, financial impairment, involvement that may impair your objectivity, service or employment that may prejudice your independent judgment, gift, favor, or etc. offered with intent to influence, and then financial gain. And in any of the conflicts, the board member would not be able to participate in the discussion or in the vote. And if you go into executive session, the board member would have to stay out for that part of the discussion, okay? And then would not be able to vote when they came out. So this is about conflict and recusal. So a lot of times board members have been abstaining from decisions when they are really in conflict. And if you have a conflict of interest, so you have an immediate family member or relative who's working in the district, you would want to recuse yourself. That's an alert that you have a conflict of interest. An abstention is when you don't feel you have enough information to make a decision, okay? So use an abstention if you don't feel you have enough info, and use a recusal if you have a conflict of interest. Relationship definitions. You probably remember, those of you who were on the board for a while, that immediate family member was one thing and a relative was a very short list of people. That list has grown to include just about everybody but the kitchen sink. Okay, so an immediate family member is a spouse, civil union, domestic partner, or dependent child residing in the same household, and a relative is all of those other things. So it's civil, domestic partner, parent, child, sibling, aunt, uncle, niece, nephew, grandparent, grandchild, son, daughter-in-law, step-parent, stepchild, stepbrother, stepsister, and the list goes on. Okay, so if you have any of those folks that are related to you that are working in the district, you want to let your board attorney know who they are and what that relationship is so that they can make sure that they're helping to protect you. Because as you know, most of the time when you're voting on a personnel item, it may be the person's number. Okay, you're not going to know who the number is. And if it's a student, it's also a number. So for instance, when I was on my board, my daughter had mono and she was going to be out for a couple of months. And so she needed to have homeschooling. I walked into the building and there was a homeschooling with a student number. I didn't know that that was my daughter. So the BA came over to me and the board attorney came over as I was walking in and said, by the way, this particular motion you need to recuse yourself from because that's Eva. So you can't approve a motion or deny a motion on somebody who you're related to. Okay? This is a list that I think you have at your table already. I think Ms. Howard put those out for everybody who's a board member. That's only part of the list. The list is a full 8.5 by 11. It'll tell you pretty much everything you want to know. This just came out last year, and we have applauded this from the SEC because it's made things a little bit clearer. So you have that list in your packet. So for hiring and personnel, Once you're elected to the board and you've been sworn in, the board, the superintendent and the board cannot hire a family member or a relative that is related to you as a board member, okay? So this is really important because, as you know, if you have daughters, they may get married and have a different last name than you. So those things are all pretty important, and that's why most applications in school districts now ask, are you related to any board member that's seated on the board? Okay, so they wouldn't be able to hire unless there's an exception, okay? If it's a really difficult position to hire for, the superintendent can then go to the executive county superintendent and ask them to waive that. That has been done in certain circumstances, okay? But that's also a process. If the relative already works in the district and the administrator, and they're a relative of the administrator cannot supervise them or make any personnel recommendations or any salary recommendations, anything like that, over somebody that is their relative. And a board member can't take part, if you have a family member or relative, take part in anybody in the chain of supervision above your family member. So if they're a teacher, that means the principal, most likely an assistant principal, a principal, perhaps a supervisor, going up to assistant superintendent and up to and including the superintendent. Okay, so you wouldn't be able to participate in anyone in the chain of supervision above your family member or relative. And then a board member wouldn't be able to take, if you have a family member or relative working in the district, you wouldn't be able to take part in a superintendent search or go to or approve a contract to go with a search consultant if and when the superintendent was leaving. Okay, in terms of collective bargaining, if you have a spouse, a dependent child, or a child that's not a dependent or a relative that works in the district, you're not going to be able to participate in negotiations nor vote to ratify the contract. If it's yourself that works in another district, so working out of district means in another school district, your spouse or a dependent child, you wouldn't be able to participate in negotiations, but you may be able to ratify the contract as long as you yourself, your spouse, or your child or relative are not leaders in that association in that other district. Okay, so if they sit at the negotiations table and it's your spouse or it's you, you would not be able to participate, even to ratify the contract. But if they're not, they're a staff member, they have nothing to do with the union activity of being at the negotiations table for that particular district, you would probably be able to ratify. And if it's a child that's not a dependent or a relative that works in another district, again, barring any other conflicts, you probably can participate in negotiations and in ratifying the contract. So other possible conflicts are if the person or relative is not in the unit, but their terms of employment are linked to the unit. And that's what often happens with a family member or relative who's working in another district. If you're all under the NJEA umbrella, then your terms of the contract are linked. If you're supervised by employees in the unit, or if immediate family has that heightened union involvement that I just spoke about. Also, back in 2008 or 9, I believe it was, the SEC said that anybody who was running for a board who was endorsed by the union, by the Teachers Association of that district, they would not be able to participate in negotiations for their first year. Now it's being done on a case-by-case basis. So if there's not been any financial involvement, the association hasn't given you money towards your campaign, you may be able to participate. So those would all be done on an advisory opinion type of basis. Okay. These are some of the advisory opinions or cases that were related to prohibitive acts. So you see the A, those are all advisory opinions. The C was a complaint. And those you'll be able to read about as I send you all this information. Impact on committee assignments. This is very new. This came out probably last fall. A board president has a child who's an assistant, instructional assistant in the district. And several board members brought charges against her for saying that she was violating the code of ethics because she had appointed chair people. And as the president, you know, you appoint chair people of your committees and you can also appoint the committee members. So they said that there was a conflict of interest. This SEC found that if the board president has a family member or relative working in the district, they may not choose the chair or members and/or serve on any committee that remotely touches or directly relates to their family member's employment, including but not limited to personnel, negotiations, instructional, and finance committees. This was a big, big, big change. Okay? Then in another case, a board member's spouse was a 10-month employee in the technology department. So it wasn't the board president or a vice president, but they were told that they couldn't be involved in any committees that remotely touch upon or directly relate to their spouse's employment, including without limitation personnel negotiations and/or finance committee. So this came about and has really restricted what board members who have family members or relatives working in the district can participate in. These were impacts on executive session. A member attended the executive session discussion on candidates to fill a board vacancy seat, and her husband had applied. No, can't do that, okay? Board president attended multiple discussions on a matter involving their spouse. Other board members were unaware that the spouse was related to the board member. And so there was a censure on all of those, okay? Because, and in both of those, the board attorney had said, they had asked the board attorney if they could attend. The board attorney had said yes. And the SEC said, you should have enough common sense to know that with all of these conflicts of interest that you're taught about in, new board member orientation and everything else, and in getting your ethics training, that you wouldn't be able to do that. Okay, volunteering in the schools. You are all people who deeply care about your community and your staff and the parents in your school district. And so most of you probably came from a volunteer position within the schools, right? So if you would like to participate in something in a volunteer aspect in the school district, the SEC asks you to take a look at how much involvement you would have in the schools. Would somebody be able to think that you are really embedded in the school, in the workings of the school district, okay? So if it's a class parent or Read Across America or something like that, as long as you're not going to be perceived as being embedded in the school district, if it's Read Across America, it's one time, not a problem, okay? Just send the superintendent a quick email. Mrs. So-and-so asked me, or Mr. So-and-so asked me to come in for Read Across America. I'll be in this school from this particular time on that day. I promise you I'm not sick. This is from having had laryngitis for 2 weeks in October. And we're all trying to figure out why this persists. But I'm usually good for about 15 minutes, and then I start to go downhill. But I'm really not sick. So you want to look at the degree of involvement that you would have. Class parents, we find that some class parents in some elementary schools in the same district may ask a class parent to come in once a month. Another school in that same district may say, the teachers may say, I'd like my class parent in 3 times a week. 3 times a week would be a problem, okay, according to the SEC. 1 time a month is not a problem. You also want to look at whether you're going to be enmeshed in the building or embedded in the building. You want to make sure that you're not handling money. So if you're in the PTO or the PTA, don't count money, don't handle money, don't collect money, don't take money to the bank. Okay, don't go to deposit money. Don't touch the money. It's really for your benefit that you're not touching any money, because it's an absolute way, and this is how board members have been accused of stealing or misplacing money. So you just don't want to have anything to do with that. And then when I first got on the board back in 1999, I'm pretty sure board members could be coaches in the school, volunteer coaches in the school district. You can't do that any longer. Okay, so no volunteer coaching for a school district club, sport, or activity. You want to advise the superintendent of what you're doing, when you're doing it, how long you're going to be there. And then you also want to make sure you're refraining from any kind of board discussion or voting with whoever it is that you're with. Okay, and always be cognizant of the acts. So in terms of voting, we really want you to be able to vote on the recommendations of the superintendent, taking them into strong consideration. Ask questions about those if you have them. but we're not suggesting by any stretch that you just rubber stamp anything. You have the ability to vote yay or nay, okay? It just can't be for arbitrary or capricious reasons. Social media. This is the bane of everybody's existence today. Okay, be very, very careful. I'm grateful that I got off of my board just as social media was moving in. So you want to make sure that if you say something on social media that's about the school or the district, that somebody can't perceive you as speaking for the board or having the authority to speak for the board. So there's a disclaimer that I'm going to show you, but even the disclaimer doesn't give you a get out of jail free pass. Okay, because thank you. So you have to be concerned about the content of what's in the post. Okay, not so much whether you've used the proper disclaimer. If you say, and there is a disclaimer that you'll see in a second, but if you use any kind of a disclaimer that says I'm a board member, but I'm speaking on my own personal behalf, I'm not speaking as I've not been given authority by this board to speak for them, nor am I speaking for the board, nor does my opinion necessarily reflect that of the board. Okay, you're probably okay. But again, if that content gives somebody the impression that you are speaking for the board, that's where the problems come in. So another situation was a board member asked if as a private citizen it would violate the act if they answered operational questions about the district on Facebook. Operational belongs to the superintendent. The superintendent is the district spokesperson. Okay, you have that in your policy. The board president is your spokesperson for the board. So this person really shouldn't be talking about doing an FAQ or giving information on operational issues of the district. They don't represent the board. They're not the board president. So you want to make sure that as a board member, you're directing people towards the district website, to the district for that information about things that are going on in the district, okay? We want everybody to go to the board and to the district website so that they can get that information, or the district social media accounts, okay? This is your disclaimer. The following statements are made in my capacity as a private citizen and not in my capacity as a board member. These statements are also not representative of the board or its individual members and solely represent my own personal opinions. So, Q&A, if you use a disclaimer, does that automatically protect you from being in violation? No, because the content of what you say, the SEC may say that the average person in your community would not be able to discern that you were not speaking for the Board of Education. What could cause me to be in violation? The content, okay? The content of your post, your blog, your podcast, whatever. If I don't use the disclaimer, does that mean that I'm automatically in violation? No. It's based on the content and the perception matter. And then do I need to use the exact disclaimer? No, you don't, but we do recommend that you use that disclaimer, okay? Other social media guidance. Once you're elected to the board, it's no longer appropriate to use your campaign page, okay? So put that on pause or inactivate that until you're running again for the board. Because if you're using that as a campaign page and now you're elected, people are going to feel that you are speaking as a board member. And why would they not? Okay? Then if you have a social media account that indicates that you are a board member, that is suggested that you do not have that either. Okay? You can have a Marianne, if I was on the Trenton board, I could have a Marianne Friedman Facebook page. I could have a Marianne Friedman Instagram account. But I'm not talking about board business in any of those areas, and I don't identify myself as a board in those areas. So I might be talking about a book club that I'm in, or about a crafting club or a quilting club that I'm in, but not about board business. Liking or sharing a post. The mere liking or sharing of a post does not indicate that you support that, but the SEC advises you to really think about how it's going to be perceived, okay? And then use of divisive language. Board members should always refrain from inappropriate communications that have no place in the educational setting. Okay, and remember, your public does decide by their voting now They vote now on your positions, so they will decide who they feel are the appropriate people to sit at this table. Okay, just about done, not bad. I know, for you guys, this is really probably terribly boring, and I am sorry. Points to consider, NJSBA recommends that you keep a list of board members who have family members or relatives that are working in the district and have a conflict, and review that on a regular basis. Consult with your board attorney on any areas that you may feel may be a conflict of interest for you, and continue to check school board notes. Board members may not deliberately disregard or ignore the ethical standards that they're required by law to uphold and enforce. When board members do so, it not only threatens the integrity of the board, but also unnecessarily compromises district personnel and subverts the very purpose for which board members are elected, namely to serve the needs of the school district and its students. Okay, some resources for you. I'm going to be sending this to you tonight, as soon as I get home. And do you have any questions? Does the board have any questions?
Any questions from the
Yes.
board members?
I have one. If you're conflicted, can you do like a blanket recusal of anything to do with that school?
You would really need, that would put your BA in a difficult position, because they would have to be able to be sure that they're recognizing everything. It's really better for you as an individual to recuse yourself from the things that you need to recuse from. And be mindful about groupings. You know, if somebody makes a motion for A through Z or something within a certain area, you really have to make sure, because there have been ethics decisions on that, where a board member said that they voted on the grouping and didn't realize that their family member was in that grouping. Okay, so you have to really pay attention to any groupings, any things that are grouped together. Okay, but it's really up to the board member to make that recusal. Okay?
Okay.
I apologize, just to piggyback off what Jeannie said. If there are items that are grouped and there is one particular item to which you're connected as a board member, you would specify that particular item.
Yes.
Okay, you have to recuse
Yeah.
yourself from that.
You would
item.
specify from that. But I also want to say that, you know, a lot of times board members have kids in the district. Okay, so if you have kids in the high school and the recommendation comes to the board, and your student is in the band, and the recommendation comes to the board that we're going to purchase all new band uniforms for the band, you don't have to recuse yourself from that, because you're not just buying a uniform for your child. You're buying uniforms for all of the band students, okay? Field trips, those kinds of things. Those kinds of things, as long as it's not for your individual student, you don't have to recuse yourself from those things, because it's for all of the students in that particular group, okay?
Okay, and I just one last question. I see that there's a codifier. It's a dependent child is what I saw on the screen. So if you are fostering a child that you're not related to.
That would be a question I would ask your board attorney. I think they might be considered a dependent child because you are caring for them
Okay.
and they are dependent upon you to care for them.
Yes.
But I would check with your board attorney just
Will
to make
do.
sure.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I thank you very, very much for your time and attention. I thank you all for your patience, and I will see you in April.
And thank you. I just want to let the public know that this presentation is a mandated yearly presentation. Every February, we will have one of our New Jersey School Board's representative presenting on ethics, and I thank you.
And it will be me.
Yes, yes. And we'll see you in April,
Yep.
and we will be going over the school
Self-evaluation.
self-evaluation for the
Yep.
board, something
Okay.
that we've not done in the past with the public,
Mhm.
in at least in the public meeting, our monthly public meeting. So we look forward to having you there, and we look forward to having the public here also so they can understand a little bit more of the work that we do and how we do it.
Perfect.
So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good night, everybody.
We will continue with our second presentation. Many of you are aware that a couple of months ago, I guess January, early January, we received our results for lead testing at 2 sites, and McKnight Elementary School did not have lead or lead above normal levels on its site. However, Grant was found to have it in multiple places for uncovered surfaces, grass, the dirt, and anywhere around that area. So we've had multiple meetings with the staff, been in and out of the school. We've had 2 community opportunities, staff, parents, and then community. We wanted to bring this opportunity to the board so that we can share the information about how we got here, what we do now, talk a little bit about testing going forward, and all of the above. So 2 of the representatives, I think Joel Petty and John Bick, they're here with us and have been with us. We plan to have a long relationship with them until we get this resolved, but they're going to share information about this process. So we appreciate you guys sharing and joining us this evening.
Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you, Board, for having us here tonight. My name is Joel Petty. I'm a remedial project manager for the Environmental Protection Agency. I'm in the remedial program. I'm going to speak on the site history a little bit and the difference between our remedial and removal programs. And then John Bick is going to come up and he's going to talk about all the sampling that was done at the school, what's being done now. And he is an on-scene coordinator for the removal program. So EPA began its investigation in East Trenton with the L.H. Mitchell site. L.H. Mitchell was a lead solder facility. It operated on Clag Avenue near Mulberry Street. The site was referred to EPA by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection in 2018, and our soil sampling investigation began soon after that. We conducted soil sampling in 2018 and 2019, which involved soil sampling in residential yards nearby the facility. What we found was that 3/4 of the samples we collected had lead above EPA's removal management level, which at the time was 400 parts per million for residential properties, but has since been lowered to 200 parts per million. And those are the same levels that we use when looking at a school. The removal management levels, also called RMLs, they're risk-based concentrations for contaminants such as lead. They are used to support the decision for EPA to undertake a removal action. A result above the RML does not necessarily indicate an adverse health effect. EPA needs to find a link between any contamination that we find and the facility being investigated, that we were investigating, the L.H. Mitchell site. So we were unable to take an action at the time. We began looking at different sources of contamination when we discovered that L.H. Mitchell was not the source. What we found was that the pottery industry was a very large industry that operated throughout East Trenton and used lead in their manufacturing. So ceramics manufacturing was a predominant industry in East Trenton for more than 70 years. There were about 80 locations throughout the city that were identified from some historic maps, about half of which were very large-scale operations, and about 30 of these locations were located in or around East Trenton, about 30 of them that may have impacted the residential properties. The industry began really around the 1850s and grew steadily until its peak in the 1920s and began a decline afterwards. And lead was commonly used in glazes. Lead poisoning has been documented in pottery workers, and airborne releases from the industry have been documented in scientific journal studies. The Department of Environmental Protection referred the historic potteries industry to us following us not being able to take an action in regards to L.H. Mitchell. That was referred to us for investigation in January of 2020. We conducted an attribution study throughout East Trenton from 2020 through 2023. An attribution study, what it was is it involved EPA looking at different characteristics of the lead contamination to see if it was related to the lead that would have been used at the potteries. So we sampled 38 properties for the attribution study, and what we found was ceramic materials from the potteries are present in residential soils within East Trenton at varying frequencies. And we established a relationship between the soils at the residential properties and soils from nearby potteries. And we also established a relationship between the ceramic material that was found on the residential properties and the soils that they were found in. So we ruled out sources that EPA is unable to respond to. Those are mainly gasoline and lead paint. We have, with our rules and regulations and the law that we must follow, we are precluded from responding to certain types of lead, and that would mainly be lead-based paint and gasoline. And we do have another program that works on lead-based paint, but they do not work on exterior or environmental contamination from the lead-based paint. So the conclusion from this study was that the lead contamination found in East Trenton is from both airborne releases and fill from the potteries. So we have two programs. The Superfund, also called the CERCLA, or the long name, the Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act. It's a program administered by the EPA in cooperation with our state and local and tribal governments, and it enables EPA to clean up contaminated sites or force parties responsible for the contamination to either perform the cleanups or reimburse the government for EPA-led cleanup work. So we have two sub-programs that study and address polluted sites. We have our removal program, which is what John works in, and that's for short-term responses to mitigate the most immediate threats to people's health or the environment. And we have the remedial program, which is what I work in, and that's for complex sites needing long-term response that are placed on the National Priorities List, which is also called the NPL. The National Priorities List is the list of sites of the highest priority among the known releases of hazardous substances throughout the United States. In order for remedial actions to occur on a site, it must first qualify for and be placed on the NPL. For sites in the remedial program, EPA often employs the removal program to take immediate action. Removal actions can also occur independently if a site is not listed on the NPL. Removal actions can last days to several years, while remedial actions often involve years of study and cleanup. And the historic pottery site is being considered for both removal and remedial actions. The removal program is taking an interim action at the Grant Intermediate School. The removal program is also reviewing data to see if interim actions are appropriate at residential and recreational properties throughout East Trenton. And right now, our pre-remedial program is evaluating the data we've collected over the past few months to determine if the site will qualify for placement on the National Priorities List. If it does qualify for placement on the National Priorities List, that's when the remedial program will begin to take a more long-term action. And now John's going to come up and discuss our the current activities and what's been being done at Grant.
Thanks, Joel. I'm going to stand this way if that's all right. So yeah, it's interesting. The Superfund law is a really unique federal regulation where it's unique from other laws because it's action-based, meaning when we find a threat, EPA has the authority to respond to that threat, but there is a process. And part of that process is multiple steps. So currently, Joel and I have been working in East Trenton specifically over the past couple of months to conduct an integrated assessment, basically data gathering. And that assessment has consisted of soil sampling. So over the past 3 or 4 months, we've visited over 900 homes in East Trenton, knocking on doors, telling people about lead contamination and how to protect themselves, but then also offering free soil sampling for any property owner who's been interested. So to date, we sampled over 125 homes in East Trenton, 3 parks and 2 schools, Darnley McKnight and Grant Intermediate. So right now, over the next several weeks and months, we're going to be taking action at Grant Intermediate. And then we're also going to be delivering results to residential property owners in East Trenton and potentially taking action at their properties as well. Throughout this whole process, community engagement has been very important to us. We've worked with a lot of local groups like the East Trenton Collaborative, spoken at the school to faculty directly. We had an availability session, a public meeting, and we're going to continue to do that as often as you folks would like, or as often as the residents would like, to keep everybody up to date on our actions and what we're planning for next steps. Oops. So here's a figure. This shows the area of East Trenton that we've been working in. Again, this is just a small segment of Trenton, but this has been our study area to do this assessment. So the two things to see on this photo are the green dots, which are the historic pottery manufacturing locations that operated 100 years ago. Now, there's no pottery manufacturing going on there right now, but some of the original structures still do exist. And then the yellow dots are all the properties that we've sampled as part of this investigation. And then you can see the two schools that we also sampled. So this photo on the left here is another aerial photograph specifically of the Grant Intermediate property to describe how we did our assessment there. So we broke the property down into 16 different areas or quadrants so that we could assess each quadrant separately, because some of the quadrants are very high use, meaning kids are out there every day during recess and gym class. And then there's areas that are low use. They're just landscaped areas next to sidewalk. So we wanted to collect samples from each one of those areas to assess them separately. So we collected our samples at varying depths, meaning we collected a sample right at the surface that people would be most encounter, and then every 6 inches below that. So we have a sample from the surface all the way down to 2 feet. And that way we can see the distribution or potential distribution of lead throughout the entire soil surface. And what we found is that the highest concentrations of lead were at the surface, within the top 6 inches. So when we look at what the analytical data means, like Joel said, we compare it to the removal management level or the RML. And that's a screening level that EPA uses to make determinations whether or not we need to take an action to protect public health. So we use that number, but then we also use the use and who's using that yard to make that determination. So in this case at Grant, when we look at the soil samples all across the property, at the surface, we had a concentration of over 300 parts per million, which is above our RML of 200 parts per million. And then when we single out just the high use areas, meaning around the playground and the athletic fields, the concentrations were a little bit lower, but we were still at 224 parts per million, which is above our threshold. Also, incidentally, we sampled there's some garden beds that's highlighted by quadrant number 15. That we know the school uses for a gardening program, and the soil in those areas were much lower and well below our RML of 200 parts per million. That concentration was only about 92. So the big question that I know everybody is wondering is, really what do these numbers mean? Because like Joel said, just because there's a number that's above the RML doesn't mean there's an immediate or acute health threat. In this case, for lead as a contaminant, to relate the exposure or potential exposure to the health threat, you have to look at all the exposure factors. And so there's many exposure factors to take into consideration, including the concentration, meaning how much lead is in the soil, the duration, so how often is the person interacting with that soil, the age of the person, and then the pathway. And for lead, there's two specific exposure pathways, ingestion and inhalation. Ingestion means eating the soil, and then the lead on the soil gets absorbed through your stomach. And inhalation, which can occur in dry and dusty conditions when soil is resuspended in air and then you breathe it in. In this case, for lead, the most susceptible population is children, because they're rapidly growing, their brains are growing, and they're much smaller than adults. And the most dangerous pathway for children is the ingestion pathway. They put their hands in the dirt, they put toys in the dirt, and then they put their hands in their mouth. So in order to kind of evaluate the health effects of lead exposure, EPA uses these blood lead models, which basically uses all those exposure factors and then can calculate a prediction of what the blood lead level would be for the person being exposed. Now, in the case of Grant, we use these models and we determined that based on the information, adults and most kids who use the property at Grant, we would not expect any significant health effects from the concentrations in soil at Grant. But when we use the most conservative parameters, so kids who are less than 6, exposure every day, year round, there is then a scenario where there could be a health risk, and that's why we decided to take an immediate interim action and recommend to the school that they close access to all these areas that have exposed soil. So as you know, the areas are fenced off and they'll remain closed to public use as EPA works with the school district and the city to determine a path forward in order to reopen those areas. So right now, EPA will not be planning any soil excavation or removal of soil at the school property. We can consider that at a later date, but right now the priority is to install protective measures in the form of a cap. So there's several different options that EPA is developing that we're going to propose to the school district based on each area. Now, the priority we know is the athletic fields. The kids right now have indoor recess. They have to get back outside. So that's the first area that we're going to focus on. The athletic field is very big. The playground area is very big. So there's multiple options that we can do, including a soil and sod cap, which is several inches, 6 to 8 inches of soil with fresh grass on top of that, or an artificial turf option. As we develop those options, we're going to propose them to the school district. In the immediate, EPA is going to come out this week and replace some of the fencing, the orange fencing that's been up, with something that's a little bit more sturdy and more permanent as we develop those options. So next steps, like I said, we'll be working at Grant Intermediate immediately. We're going to continue evaluating the data in all of East Trenton and delivering those results to homeowners, and then potentially doing more actions at the residential properties. We'll continue to stay engaged with all the stakeholders. And if there's any additional residents in East Trenton who would like their yard sampled, we'll be available to schedule that as well. And over the next year, we will be addressing some properties that have high concentrations of lead in East Trenton. We're going to be using all the data that we've collected over the past several months to evaluate the site as a whole for the national priorities listing. And then if it is eligible, we're going to propose it through the process, which would then lead to a public comment period. Then further down the line, if the site is listed on the national priorities list, Joel and the remedial program will come back in and do much more sampling to determine the full extent of lead contamination. And he would look at other areas of Trenton as well, where there was potteries who operated. And then once he and the remedial program decide on a long-term cleanup strategy, that will be documented in a document called the Record of Decision. So here's a brief segment of the site team who's been working on site. Joel and I, our contact information is there. We have a QR code and our public-facing website that has all our documents, and we post our updates there. So please take a picture of that. And don't hesitate to reach out to me or Joel anytime by email, text, or call. And any questions that we can address for you at the moment?
Yeah, so can I? Yeah, so I think I have two. So what's the factor that determines when the NPL occurs? I had question marks.
Yeah, so there's a lot of factors that occur to that. I don't know, Joel, if you want to speak to that, but.
Sure, yeah. So when EPA finds a wide enough area that's contaminated, we would consider it for the national priorities list. So what we've been doing the last few months is collecting samples at many residential properties throughout East Trenton, and there's a whole scoring process that goes on. So we have to, there's a certain number of residents that would need to be impacted, and then certain levels of lead that you would have to find. So we're taking a look at all that data as it comes in, and that's when it will be determined at that point.
Okay, and then the next question is, so you mentioned about, I'm going to use the term remediation, I hope it's okay, where you're going to bring in some soil and put it on top of the soil and then put some sod or something on top of that. And so is there an expectation around when that will occur?
We're working on that with our contractors now. We have a contractor who's been out on the site. I'm hoping within the next several weeks, but it depends on the vendor availability and really their schedule. But we are pushing as quickly as possible for that.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay, so yes, so I have a question relative to that. So what resources do you have available? Because I know currently the orange fencing that was put up was actually done by the district. So what resources do you bring to bear in terms of the situation to help to expedite this?
So we have an emergency contractor that we have who's considered our prime contractor. And so they're going to be responding this week and putting up more fencing. And then the next steps, like the soil cap or the artificial turf cap or mulch, whatever we decide with the school district, will be completed by our contractors, EPA contractors.
And is there a timetable for that?
Not right now. We're going to be putting fence up, more heavy-duty temporary fence this week. And then the next steps will be as quickly as we can. But I don't have a specific schedule for you at the moment.
Okay, so that's something that we would really be interested in, because if it was urgent that we identify these sites, it's even more urgent that we address whatever's going on there. So the timetable that, takes us through June as opposed to 2025 is something that we're looking for.
It's on the order of magnitude of weeks because, EPA recognizes how critical those athletic fields and playgrounds are. Unfortunately, the contracting, the procurement takes a little bit of time, but we are looking to get it done on a magnitude of weeks, not years or months.
Good
And
answer.
I have a
And as soon
question.
as we do have a schedule, we can definitely update you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a couple questions. The two quadrants that showed the highest levels that were actually over 400, which is the DEP's level, would you say cars running back in the 70s at those two lights would have had an impact on those two specific areas, the lead and the gasoline?
You're speaking from lighted gasoline? You
Yeah.
want to talk about the attribution? Sure.
Does it hang on that long so it could be, that's why those two spots are high?
Yeah, absolutely. Automobile exhaust could be adding to it.
Okay.
The way this school was constructed in the 1930s, right? 1930s. There was a school here originally, and a lot of that was demolished before the new school was built. We do think that it seems to line up with where the school was. That impact from the potteries as well would have potentially impacted those areas a little more. It is hard to say with any certainty exactly what in that quadrant, caused that. There could be a lead paint influence, there could be leaded gasoline, and of course we believe the potteries overall contributed the most.
My other question is, if you bring in everything that's brought in to encapsulate has to be tested as well. So if we opted for the sod instead of the turf, are we going to have a choice in which one we get?
Yeah, we're going to discuss, the pros and cons of those options. But yes, everything will be tested. The soil will be tested. The soil that's in the sod will be tested. And then if we bring in mulch or a different product like that, that would be tested as well.
That has to be tested
Yeah, it's
as well.
tested at a certain frequency based on how much we bring in.
Okay,
And we would, provide those results to
okay.
you.
Thank you.
All right, I just have one question. So the recommendation is to bring in sod or artificial turf to cap off the affected areas. So why is the decision to cap it off as opposed to removing the contaminated soil and replacing it with?
Right now, it's considered a temporary or an interim action, meaning,
Okay.
we can come out and we can do it as quickly as possible. Like Joel was speaking to the two programs, and there's a lot of nuance in the way that EPA is set up and the way that the program is built.
Okay.
But in order to do something immediately that can protect public health, it would be the cap. And then the long-term cleanup eventually could be the removal of the soil.
Okay.
I have a question. You said that in the next few weeks, you're going to continue on doing the community education piece. Could you talk a little bit about how long you plan to be engaged in the community, educating the community, how many more workshops you plan to have?
Sure. I mean, we've been in the community. Well, I mean, Joel has been here for a while, back looking at the LH Mitchell. But for this phase of the work, for the integrated assessment, we started at the end of October. And we've been knocking on doors pretty much through January or so, every day, trying to really speak to every resident of East Trenton. We've talked to about 65% or so. There still is a portion of people that we did not speak to on a one-on-one level. But we have, attended many of the meetings that the collaborative has had or Lead Free New Jersey in order to kind of spread the word of what we're doing. Right now, we don't have any additional public meetings set up or scheduled, but we can set up those as needed, because we're not going anywhere.
And just to add to that, the East Trenton Collaborative is going to be having like monthly tabling events, and they also have community meetings that are set up kind of monthly, and we typically attend those as often as we can. So those will continue on as well.
I have another question. You guys are focused on East Trenton. That was the only part of the city where these pottery factories were? What about all the tile and?
No, there were about 30 of the locations that we've identified in and around East Trenton. There were about 80 locations throughout the city. So right now we're focused on East Trenton because that was where we initially started sampling and where the referral was. So first we really had to see whether there was that link between the lead contamination and the potteries. So the next focus is to get started on taking some action in East Trenton. And as the site's being considered for the remedial program would be the ones that would look that would look at other areas of the city. And that would be if and when it's listed. If it's not listed, then we'll be able to have some other conversations about what the removal program might be able to do. But we don't have any dates yet for when we'd be looking at other areas of Trenton.
Okay.
I wanted to follow up on some of the comments that my colleagues made about timeline. So I heard you saying in the next couple weeks, and that you would start with the recreation areas, with the fields. Do you think you can commit to by April, at least the fields will be completed? Because our kids really need to be able to go outside. Is that a commitment that you can make, or?
No, not at this time. I mean, unfortunately, it's really dependent on the contractors and the subcontractors and their schedule. The initial conversations with them is that, they have the ability to do this work very quickly. It's just a matter of being able to get them funded and get them out there. So right now, I can't say by April, but that's definitely what I'm shooting for, personally, because I understand how hard it is, for the kids, but then also for the staff, having the kids inside. I mean, that's definitely not lost on us. It's just we're trying to get the process moved along as quickly as possible.
So the funding, you guys are paying for this, correct?
Yes.
So you talked a little bit about my colleague who had asked about, covering it versus taking out and the dirt. And you said that might be considered at some later time. I just wanted to hear what the possibility is that right now you do the removal and again, all of a sudden, 2 years down the road, kind of like happened this time that you guys showed up and said, this site is contaminated, that you guys might show up again and say, no, now we've really got to go in and remove all of this. Is that a possibility? Does that happen? I mean, I think it's important that we understand what the ramifications could be down the road for us.
Yeah, just so I make sure we understand your question. So you mean we would do an interim action now, so we would cover?
You said it was an interim action.
Right, yes,
Correct.
temporary. And then down the road, we would potentially come back and remove the soil. That's
Right.
what you're asking? Yes, that definitely is an option. And that, that does happen because as we move through the Superfund process, the removal program can have a component to do something immediately to protect public health. And then as the site and properties move through the process, like the remedial process, there's a long-term cleanup option that's available to remove all that contaminated soil.
But is this school going to go through that remedial process, or are we staying with just the interim? We're going to go through the long term with this?
Yeah, I don't want to speak for Joel and the remedial program because we're not there yet, but that's all the work that we're doing is in the neighborhood of East Trenton, and the school is part of that one property, part of the 128 or so that we sampled, that's going to be evaluated for the remedial process.
Okay.
I don't know, sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you. Just to add to that, so we can't be pre-decisional in what we say about, a site listing and whether it will qualify for the remedial. So that's kind of where we have to be a little, careful with what we say will be done in the future. But
we need to be prepared. That is a possibility for us.
absolutely, and it is certainly a possibility because what John is going to be doing with the removal program is only considered a temporary action. If the site does not qualify, the removal program will continue to evaluate at that point. If it qualifies, that's when the remedial program will begin it. And once the temporary actions are put into place, the removal program will monitor those actions for the life of those actions. So it won't be that the removal program would do a temporary action and then walk away. It's really to get something started while the site is, considered for this long term.
And I assume at that point, you guys will also be involved in that cleanup and funding that cleanup if it's necessary?
Absolutely, yep.
Thank you.
So I just have one additional question, and my question is, in terms of the testing of individuals who've been at that site for a long period of time, what role do you have in terms of making sure that the folks get tested,
So
or the children or the staff?
Yeah, so EPA doesn't, we don't do any, blood testing. It's not really, it's considered more of a health test.
Okay.
So we rely on our health departments, and we, we're partnered with our federal partners, which is the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, ATSDR. They're with the CDC, and they're working with the state and the local health. And I know they're trying to implement blood lead testing for the students that are at the school, but I have not heard of any specific date that will be available yet.
And they're going to make everyone aware that once they test them, that the parents have to open their homes to testing as well, because don't they have to look at all the exposure?
I don't want to speak for like whether they will have to, but I know that if a child does test high for, has elevated blood level, they do typically go out to the homes and do an inspection of the homes, because with blood lead testing, that would only be able to tell if the child was exposed, not where it came from. So, we wouldn't know whether that exposure happened at the school, happened at home, or somewhere else. And with, the lead and soil contamination that's not just at the school, we know it is a problem in East Trenton. There's also lead-based paint inside homes, and we also have the lead service line issues that I know the water department has been working on doing a replacement. So there's a lot of different sources of lead in the community.
In keeping with Ms. Montaño's first question, since you cannot commit to doing the work sooner than later, if we as a board were to remediate by putting sod over the play areas, would you reimburse us for that if we did the job?
No, typically EPA doesn't have a mechanism for that, but the owner of the property, can do whatever remediation
Right.
they want. I mean, that's
Right, but
not-
since you did say that it is something that EPA would pay for, and we do need it done as soon as possible, and you can't, and when I say you, I'm not speaking of you personally, but you can't commit. If we were able to find the funds to do it now, why, would there be a possibility of EPA reimbursing us for the work that they are going to be doing?
I can't speak to the financial reasons why. I don't know the exact mechanism, but, I know that's not available for us to give you guys a check or a reimbursement for work that you
When you
do.
say us, you are sure that EPA would not be able to do so? Is there someone that we could ask higher up?
I could definitely ask the question for you and I could get back to you, definitely.
Wonderful, thank
Yeah.
you. Any other questions?
Just one. You mentioned about on your chart of the neighborhood, you showed yellow dots for homes that were also tested for lead contamination. I think maybe Jeannie may have addressed this question when I was out for a second. But what strategies are you using to inform and provide educational support and potential remediation for those particular homes of families that are attending our schools in the district? That's the first part of the question. The second part is, you didn't mention too much about Darlene McKnight, so there must not have been any. You did? No, not. So we're good there. That's perfect. That's excellent. So please, if you can address the first question. Thank you.
So a kind of multifaceted approach. So when we talk to people first to tell them about what EPA is doing in the neighborhood, we provided them with information just about general lead exposure for all the multiple sources that Joel had mentioned, but then specifically about how to protect them from lead in soil, the mitigation efforts that they can take, just so that they could be aware, because we didn't have results instantly. So in the event that your kids and your pets are using the soil, you should do these things as a proactive approach. So that's kind of the message that we had throughout the whole community, number one. And then as we get the results back, like we did for the Board of Education, the mayor's office is we're going to deliver those results to the residents. So we'll provide the actual analytical data tables that explains the concentrations of lead in their soil, and then a figure that shows where we collected the soil samples, and then a description of what EPA is going to do about it. And that, we have a phased approach based on that, and it's based on risk, meaning, those exposure factors that I mentioned. Are there kids there? Are there young kids there? Do they use the yard? How do they use the yard? So there's, a kind of a gradient of approach of what EPA is going to do based on each specific property.
That's a longer term. Is that as short of a turn as it would be 3-4 weeks, or is this a longer turn on getting that done for remediation at those homes?
No, so it'll be a similar approach where if we do need to take an action because there's a high risk population there, we would do a temporary cover depending on the specific yard, and then longer term, that property would be reevaluated by the remedial program for a long-term cleanup down the future if the site is listed.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Yep, no problem.
So just a few quick updates and we'll move right along here. As most of you know, we've had snow this year. And I know many of you have been excited by the number of emails I get regarding closing on those days. So also what that means though is when you don't have or can't build as many into your schedule, because we recognize many holidays and different things in a calendar, that you may have to make those up. So we had one built in and we have used 3 emergency closing days, which means we need to make up 2 at this time. And so I've tried to hold off and at least get to March. Feels good to be warm, but we know March can bring surprises. So at this time, I just wanted to alert, like the first alert that I'm looking at the end of the year. I say it's a we, and typically we come in with 2 or 3 choices. We get association leaders and many constituents in our district to try to figure out what works best for everyone. So we're looking at adding the 2 days at the end of the year, the 24th and 25th at this time. If we don't do that, then we go backwards or forward. In the north, people say forward, and I go backwards to May and into April potentially, into other areas of break time. So we're going to do our best right now to rest there. Hopefully snow doesn't come, although we love snow. So The other thing to know about that is that it does impact graduation. So we have graduation planned on the 21st and the 22nd, I believe. So there's a Friday and a Saturday. And based on what I'm receiving from the county right now, you must complete the 180 days before you can provide diplomas. And so we must work with that. And I would imagine all the school districts are going through the same thing, because I know other districts that didn't have any built in. So we're working with that right now, and we will be letting you know soon. So just wanted to put that out there for now. We haven't made a final decision, but I wanted you to be aware that there are currently two days that we potentially will have to make up. And if it goes longer, it could be more. So the other thing is I see our families and here tonight for public participation, as I read about translation services, and we certainly appreciate them bringing that concern to the board. Right now, we don't got Spanish translation, as the sign says, but we need it. And we have been working, I'm working with several board members here. We did explore with, I think, Latino Spirit. We had about 6 months of Spanish translation, and the board decided that we should look at other avenues to try to make sure that the translation is clear, and that we wanted to explore other options. Madam Sasa shared with me an option just Friday, I think, Thursday or Friday, or was it this weekend? And we discussed it today. So please know that we are working diligently and have every expectation that we have translation services in the district. Not only that, we had the opportunity with the EPA presenting last Thursday to see how they do it. It was really impressive. So I've asked their information about the equipment they use and the opportunity to be able to walk into the meeting and participate fully in the meeting in the native language. We have French Creole, we have to consider Spanish and other languages. So as we go through this process, we're considering all of that. So it's our goal to be in that space very soon. On Wednesday, we have our 6th in the series of community conversations. This one is around technology and innovation. If you've been in our schools or you have children in schools, or many of you work in the schools, there's a lot of good work going on around how to use the technology for education. Get the device, you have fun with it, you're able to communicate with the rest of the world and go all over the place with games. And we want you to be educated about how to get educated using it. So tomorrow, on Wednesday, Mrs. Reyes and team, myself and others will be at Jefferson Intermediate School at 6 p.m., I think. Don't quote me on that. It is on the website, 6 p.m. And we'll be talking about the vision and goals of using technology and innovation in the district, where we are right now. Then she's going to engage you in some of the things that our students are engaged in, using Apple products, and then some of the other areas, so that you get to feel and see it as a parent or as a teacher if you don't have it in your school yet. But we're moving through our setting. The other exciting thing is that we have, I'm asking the board, I've requested the opportunity to kind of reimagine the current Daylight Twilight High School. We know that Daylight Twilight is a comprehensive high school. However, having the stigma or the label of being an alternative school can impact how the public sees it. So I'm asking the board to look at policy, and hopefully we're able to start rebranding in name. We want to look at the name and the offerings and the course offerings. So we anticipate, many of you know, because we had a presentation from Ms. Williams several months ago around about our career center there. And so we're really excited about that space. We believe those services, of course, they'll be offered to all students in the district, but those services could be offered to the community. Workforce service, workforce development, writing your resume, dressing for success, connecting to employers in the area and throughout Central Jersey and North Jersey and all over New Jersey. But just as we have done in that current setting and other high school settings, we do want to build a small learning community model around this, particularly focused on workforce development and business. So stay tuned to that. Be aware that that's coming our way and that we'll be looking at the name, the space, and everything about it. We want that to be a high functioning high school, continue to do the work that we're already doing. So we're very excited about this opportunity and look forward to the work ahead. That's all I have, Madam President.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to ask our board committee chairs to please give their reports, starting on my right-hand side with Gerald.
You've been picking me first the last couple of meetings, I tell you. You only go to Gene.
My VP, so.
All right, God bless you. Thank you. So I'll just first report board members on the policy we met Thursday, February 15th, as a committee with myself, Yolanda, and Denise, and our general counsel, Mr. Roll. Really looking at our committee goals for the year 2024. Circling back to use of facilities policy, which we received information on, and we'll look at that at our next policy committee meeting, which is the third Thursday of March. We also looked at a status update on our Strauss Esme policy review. So Mr. Roll is working on that with Strauss Esme to determine what that review will look like. We also had a recommendation to look at New Jersey school boards as a possible review from New Jersey School Boards Association, as well as Strauss Esme, and decided as a committee which one would be the best. We also looked at, we're approving our regulations. Superintendent's working on regulations with his team, along with our general counsel. That's forthcoming to the board to approve. In the first reading, we changed our policy around regulations, not requiring a second reading like policies are, but regulations being responsibility of the superintendent. We did want the board to have an opportunity to see them and approve them, similar to as the superintendent makes recommendations to the board in other matters on the agenda. We will also, let's see, I think that was pretty much all we did. Anything else that you guys can remember from the policy committee? Does that pretty much cover it? Okay. All right, thank you. So our next meeting is the third Thursday of March in the evening at 5:30, which is the, let's see, the 21st, I believe. 21st is the third Thursday in the month of March. So that'll be our next policy meeting. In terms of family and community engagement and school support, we met on the February 13th at 8 a.m. for about 40 minutes. It was with Yolanda and Denise. I think that might have been a snow day. So we didn't have participation from administration, but I know what they were there in spirit working on things in the district, getting things handled. But we did talk about profiles and stories about in reference to our alumni. I know that's something that the superintendent and Yolanda, the board president, is working on, school achievement, as well as Morgan. And we're looking at, we'll get more information about what that looks like and share with the board, as well as with the community. I was really excited about the community partnership presentation we did last board meeting with Isles in terms of the community school model. I think that's an awesome and great opportunity for us to hear in the community, to hear from our community partners in our board meetings. So we look forward to hearing more about future presentations from community partners as we move forward. So we did discuss that as well. We also discussed calendar planning of school events that are coming up in all the schools, maybe a combined calendar of some sort. I know that sometimes that's very difficult with all the schools we have in our district, 21 plus schools in our district, and coordinating and compiling that data sometimes seems insurmountable. We're looking to come up with a plan where we can receive information about all the events that are happening in the various schools, so that as board members and community, we can attend those meetings, those public events as board members in those particular schools. And so we'll circle back with you, Mr. Earl, around those questions that we have and those opportunities and ideas that we have. We also, in terms of things we want to discuss in the future, around our community conversations that you mentioned about coming on Wednesday on our technology and communications with Yvette. Rayos. I think that's going to be an exciting time for us at Jefferson Intermediate. So we invite all of you guys to come out and be a part of that in the community and share your thoughts and opinions and get information from you. But we want to also find out about in terms of data around who's attending our community conversation, how that data is being compiled, getting demographic information around, for example, who's coming, are they, school from their community, are they from the school, and so forth. I know we've been compiling data at our community conversations, sign-in sheets and things of that nature, but want to make sure that we begin to look at and digest and understand who's coming and participating in our community conversations. That's something that's future topics of discussion that we'd like to discuss with the superintendent and his team as we move forward. But I want to share just one quick additional thing about community conversation, about things that are coming up. I know you know about the one that's coming Wednesday evening at Jefferson School, but it's around our 5-year strategic plan implementation. Really want the community to come and share ideas, get questions answered, learn about our district initiatives, meet district administrators, board members, and staff in those particular schools in that particular area of our goals around our 5-year strategic plan. Be involved with the child's education. It's so very important that you come out, get involved with the child's education. These are opportunities to do so. So again, community conversation, technology, and communications, February 28th, as Superintendent mentioned. Bilingual education, March 20th at Hedgepeth Williams. Special education, April 17th at Ellis Auditorium right here. Then we have a goal 3 and 4 on May 15th at Tanga. So there's a lot of opportunities to participate, get involved with the implementation of our 5-year plan, ask questions, meet us, get together with us, share your ideas. And it's an opportunity also to interact and engage with administrators, board members, and school staff, much different than a board meeting. A board meeting, we cannot really necessarily interact back and forth with you, but in that environment, it's less stringent for us as board members. We can dialogue with you and have communication with you, of course, with the administration and school staff at the school as well, where we're having that particular topic or goal idea implementation that we're discussing at that time. So I really want to thank you for your time and listening to my report. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you, Londa.
Austin?
Thank you. With the HR committee, we met last Wednesday. And it's usually about the kind of the same spiel I give month by month of different positions that we have open with the district, right? And different positions and attracting as many people into the district as possible. And it's the same here on this report. But one thing I did want to highlight, right? And I fell off a little bit, right? You know, I got a 6-month-old at the house, so you gotta forgive me that certain things fall through the crack. But I try to make it a point to publish all of the openings as they come available on my Facebook page, right? You know, engage the community that way. Not fully popular, only got like 5 likes on it. But one thing that I really was encouraged by was the fact that it at least was shared like 30, 40 times, like going into this school board meeting today. And that was published earlier today. So that just proves that there is an appetite, there's a desire, there's a lot of people who are interested in being a part of the great work that we're doing here. So please, you know, give me more than 5 likes, but make sure that you guys share all the open positions and all the great work that we're doing and that you can be a part of here in the district.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank Dwayne and his crew for getting the fencing up at Grant as quickly as they did. We found out at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and by the next morning, everything was shut down. So I appreciate the time you spent doing that. Facilities met on February 21st. The first thing I have is an update on the demolition of Junior 1 and MLK. The advertisement for the bid has hit the newspapers on the 20th of the month. Pre-bid walkthroughs are being conducted through tomorrow, and the bid period will last 4 weeks, ending on March 19th. The notice to proceed will be, and the contract will be awarded on the 15th of April. And we're looking to start demo May 1st. And it's going to take approximately 2 months to get that demoed, leveled, and cleaned up for the next step of the school. Also going on, we have the wrapping up of the HVAC upgrade at Hedgepath Williams. Installation of window units is 85% complete. 80% of the electrical work is finished, and the proposed completion date on that is April 15th of 2024. As far as ninth grade academy goes, they had to do utility work for the new trailers that they're installing. That is 60% complete. And the proposed completion date of that project is also May 1st to get those units up and running. We had the EPA's thing on grant school, so you're all brought up to date on that, and that's the end of it. And the next meeting will be the third Wednesday of March. Thank you.
Okay. So good afternoon. Just sharing from the curriculum committee. The curriculum committee met on the 22nd, which was last Thursday, to review the teaching and learning agenda. Some of the highlights from that particular meeting. We were very happy to see the updates and inclusion of the course catalog for middle school and also for high school. In addition, we saw continued partnerships with the College of New Jersey and a continued focus on social emotional learning, academic supports for students, and also professional learning experiences. There was also a discussion about grants in general, and specifically workforce development grants that could benefit our students, as some of our students look forward to alternatives to college after high school. We were very excited about the number of student trips that were listed on the agenda for approval. Extending learning outside of the classroom is extremely important, and the trips were varied in terms of to theaters, museums, amusement parks, aquariums, colleges and universities, the zoo, bowling alleys, and just about any place under the sun. So very excited to see that taking place. We also had an update from special service in terms of the planning of the extended school year program. It's in the planning stages. However, it's designated so far to be a 4-week program. And in fact, looking to solidify the site for this particular summer. I believe it has been PJ Hill for the last few years, and looking to see if perhaps that can continue. Also, special services is looking to establish Special Services is looking to establish sites for specific programs and services so that our children can remain closer to home for their school year placement. In addition to that, we talked about sections being added to the high school course catalogs so that students with specific classifications can take specialized courses with the appropriate instructors. So we talked about that. And we also talked about the continued need to add staffing in the area of special education. We know that we're doing the best that we can in terms of servicing all of our students in the areas of need. But again, additional staffing is always needed. Additionally, we had a discussion about refocusing Daylight Twilight High School as a comprehensive high school with a specific focus on a small learning community. And the current name would then have to be reflective of what type of community that would be. And so there was consideration and discussion about what would the new purpose of Daylight Twilight High School be? What would the new purpose? What would the function? What learning community would actually be housed there? And renaming it according to this new function was also part of that particular discussion. So that's the report from Curriculum Committee.
Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So we met on the 21st. We reviewed the secretary's report, treasurer's report, staff travel, and the bill list. And lastly, the transfers. And there was Grant funding drawdowns were about $11 million for December. We also were made aware that the principals have submitted their 2025 budgets electronically on the 2nd, and presentations with the principals started on the 20th and ended on the 23rd. And then lastly, I think this whole discussion around daylight twilight is critically important. When you think about historically, children were prepared to go to college, but the significant majority of students in urban communities do not immediately go to college. And so in addition to vocational training, there are career technical education courses. And so if you just Google, Forbes, the skills that employers most desire, you get a full list of those skills that could possibly be taught. That could possibly be taught in daylight, twilight, and it creates the opportunities for our children to be prepared once they leave high school. And so we're really excited about that. I'm very excited about it because in my day job, I focus on workforce development, and so there's a lot of opportunity for our children. So that's a wrap. Nope. The best part. Yeah, donations. So this is a revised donation from PC Richards, $1,200 for Grant Intermediate Schools. Book Smiles, 500 books to Visual and Performing Arts Theater, Trenton Central High School. Elise McGrath, a vehicle, Trenton Central High School STEM, and so that the children can learn how to repair vehicles. Nobody thinking they got a Cadillac or a Mercedes or something. The Smith Family Foundation, $1,000 for the Trenton High School Marching Band. Danielle Punton, $100 for the Trenton High School Communications SLC. And Polo Capero, $200 for Trenton High School Communications SLC. And thank you all for your generosity to our children.
So just shortly after the presentation from the EPA, I wanted to make sure I recognize the table at the back. That's the Green Healthy Homes Initiative. I think they joined us at one of our other functions. We appreciate having you. That's an opportunity if you want more information they're providing to anyone interested about. I'll just read the quick one-liner. It's dedicated to addressing the social determinants of health and the advancement of racial and health equity through the creation of healthy, safe, energy-efficient homes. So if you get a chance and want more information, I know they're passing it around. Don't hesitate to check in. Thank you.
Moving on to old business. Moving on to old business for the board meeting of January 22, 2024. We had one concern from Talithia Duncan. A member who worked in the summer for 20+ hours still did not receive her payment. She thought it would be on the agenda for last month, and the matter was not placed on the agenda for payment. She stated the program's revision for the grant or job the member worked for is on the agenda but not the individual, so that person cannot get paid. In response, the member's name is on the HR board agenda for approval tonight. After approval, the member will be paid according to the board-approved timesheet schedule. And moving on to public participation. The Trenton Public School District welcomes the attendance and comments from all the members of the public at its meetings. This public comment period is your time to be heard on any school or school district issue that a member of the public may feel is of concern to the residents of the school district. Each person who signed up to comment will have 5 minutes. You will be notified when your 5 minutes are up. You cannot yield your time to another person. When it is your turn to speak, please address all your comments to the board president. Please conduct yourself in a respectful and courteous manner. For anyone whose comments or actions either harass, intimidate, or threaten the safety of any person, we will provide you with a warning or immediately end your comment time. Also, if you curse, use vulgar language, or make personal attacks, we will provide you with a warning or end your comment time. Comments that adhere to these guidelines will not be interrupted. If you have any questions, please ask your questions during your 5-minute comment period. After the public comment period is closed, the board, superintendent, or designee will address your questions to the extent provided by the law. We also ask that members of the public not interrupt the speaker during their public comments. I would like to add that when we get to the 4-minute mark, I will remind you that you have 1 minute left. First person, we have Ms. Griselda Pachuca Garcia from NALDAF. Ms. Pachuca Garcia?
Hello, good evening, board. Good evening, community members. My name is Griselda Pachuca Garcia. I'm here to present, not a concern, such as happy news right now. I am presenting Latin American Legal Defense Education Fund, or LALDA for short. We are a community-based organization. You were making comments earlier about having community members be more here present, and one of them right now. We offer many, many services to the public, but I'm mainly here to talk about Futuro, which is a college prep program. It is completely free. It is a 2-year program designed for 11 and 12 graders. It's also designed for first and second generation immigrant students, regardless of their origin, background, or language. We welcome anybody from Trenton Public High Schools, Woodridge Public, private or charter schools to apply for the program. So if anybody knows anyone who may benefit for this program, please let them know. I do have some flyers to pass around if anybody needs them. Aside from Futuro, we offer many other services. We have immigration legal services. We offer adult education programs for anybody who wants to learn English after work, anybody who wants to complete their GED after work, or sometimes in the morning, depending on the schedules. We also offer the services, and they're mostly completely free as well. So it's just something wonderful. You're just touching base on many youth not truly wanted to go directly to college right after high school graduation. One of the main factors is not just because they don't want to, it's because they don't have the resources. They don't have the support. They don't have the knowledge. I myself am a first generation college student, second generation immigrant. So it took me 10 years to attain my bachelor's degree. However, all of that has made me be so proud to be part of this program and offer not just my resources, but community resources as well for other aspiring career. All right, thank you. That's pretty much it. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Sandra Dowling. Ms. Sandra Dowling. Ms. Janice Williams.
Good evening, Janice Williams, speaking as an individual and a city taxpayer. Before you start the clock, Jane, I'd just like to take a point of personal privilege and thank Business Administrator Jane Howard and Superintendent Earl and Board President Yolanda Lopez and board members for their advocacy work in making sure that my colleagues at Daylight Twilight got the parking that we so desperately needed. So again, thank you. I know the city was fighting us tooth and nail, but that was a fight that I was not going to give up on while I was at Daylight Twilight. Unfortunately, I retired before it came to fruition, but I feel that I was a integral part of making that come about. And I don't care if the mayor doesn't speak to me forever and a day anymore. We got what our teachers deserve because teachers should not have to pay to educate children. So thank you, board, for your diligence in that area. And again, I want to Also say that I was glad that I was able to lay the foundation for the work that's being done at Daylight Twilight High School. We're moving in the right direction, and the city and the students deserve the opportunity to learn in an environment that's considered a comprehensive high school and bring small learning communities into that facility to make it happen. So thank you again, board, for the work in that area. Now you can start my 5 minutes, Ms. Howard. Good evening, board members, colleagues, and members of our community. I stand before you today, not just as a retired teacher, but as someone who has been in the trenches, fighting the good fight alongside each of you. We all know the old saying, your word is your bond. It's a simple truth that we live by every day. Whether it's promising to help a neighbor or standing up for what's right, honesty and integrity are what we're all about. Now, when it comes to those who work for our schools, especially those who make big decisions, we expect them to live by these principles too. It's just not knowing the rules. It's about being someone who can work well with others, someone who gets things done and sticks to their promises. But I've got to say, I'm not sure that's what we're getting from our current General Counsel, James Roll. And it seems like Superintendent Earl and others aren't keeping a close enough eye on whether he's really doing his job. No one is monitoring the efficacy of his work or the work ethic. I worked with a lot of district board attorneys over the years. Tom Sumners, Paul McLemore, you named them. For 43 years, I worked with all of them. Most of them knew how to get the job done right and on time, based on the facts and what was fair, based on board policies, contractual language, and the law, not on who you like or the title that you have. But lately, I've heard from too many people about Mr. Roll dragging his feet, missing deadlines, and not living up to his end of the bargain. And it's not just for me saying this. Others have come before you at this mic speaking about the same issue also. Take a recent situation, for example. I was involved in a level 3 grievance, which I represented a teacher regarding contractual and district policy violations. And we're still waiting on a decision that should have been made months ago. Mr. Roll said he was working on it, running around, trying to secure the signatures of the board's grievance committee to be placed on the agenda for approval. Well, I guess Mr. Roll is still running around, trying to secure the signatures of that board members. Perhaps he's done it tonight because he knows that I was coming here to speak about this particular issue. But since the board's grievance committee is assembled here this evening, perhaps your general counsel can secure those signatures so it can be placed on the board agenda for approval and a decision can be rendered. We've been waiting since October 4th. It is now February 25th.
You have 1 minute left.
Thank you. It is not just about the delays, though. It's about the fairness and doing what's right. Recently, 2 months after the board decision was made, Mr. Roll told me if we hadn't heard back from him, it probably meant things didn't go our way. Well, Mr. Roll, that's not how it's supposed to work. His job is to make sure everyone's playing by the rules and that our agreements are respected. Because of my experience as a past grievance chair for 13 years and my advocacy in this work, I am well established in the rules that govern this work. Since when does the Board of Education simply ignore grievance decisions? For 13 years, I have always received a written decision. But he's too caught up on his own words, too comfortable to be bothered by doing his job. That's a problem for all of us. The board level grievance was held October 4th, and we are still waiting. So who is at fault for the lack of compliance with the board's decision not being rendered? Is it the board grievance committee? Is it Superintendent Earl, whose designee is General Counsel Roll, or Mr. Roll himself? Further, we would not be asking these questions had Mr. Roll rendered a complete level 2 decision that addressed the entire grievance. So here's the big question for tonight. Is James Roll really helping our schools and our kids, or is he letting us down? We need individuals in these roles who are going to stand up for what's right, who are going to fight for our district, mission, students in our community with everything they've got. That's not what we're talking about. And that's what we deserve. So let's make sure we hold on to those principles.
Thank you.
Make Mr. Rowe accountable for rendering decisions in a timely manner. Thank you and have a good evening.
Next is Mrs. Laura Mora here. Oh, there she is.
Good evening. Laura Inés Leal Mora. I live in 528 Gladstone Avenue. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of Trenton Board Education. Today I have come to support Ms. Yarixa Roldan, who has come to give a suggestion with respect to the meetings of the Board Education. We know very well that many parents, because their status as households, cannot attend meetings. They must work. Others because they do not know English as a language. That is why I support the idea of subtitling the meetings in Spanish, which will benefit many parents, including Haitians that speak Spanish as well. I know she has to go first than me, but something was wrong with her application. But her idea, I support it, and we need more Spanish translations for our Spanish-speaking people that do not speak English. Another suggestion is if you can offer Spanish translation services in the meetings. Some parents come over here and do not have anyone to translate for them, and sometimes they have to leave because they don't find anyone. Second one, I suggest last year to make a hotline for the students that are being bullied or assaulted, and or other issues in and out of the school. I know the assault continue out of the school, and many students and parents do not say anything. They prefer to quiet because they are scared. A hotline for those students and parents will be great, not only for assaulted, other issues, even depression. I said finally, but it's not finally. We are fighting against disease and pests, mice and roaches around schools, specifically sidewalks. Around the schools, specifically sidewalks, accumulate a lot of garbage. See the possibility of at least once a week clean around. I said that because I live close to Head Pest Williams, and it's been 1 week. The sidewalk is disgusting. And not even that, thinking all the pieces of glass that are around the sidewalks, and children are around too. It's danger. Personally, I fall down and hurt my knee with a glass. And I'm thinking in children's too. Hearing IPA presentation, it concerned to me a lot. I'm not a negative person. I'm very positive and like to give ideas. If I'm not wrong, I heard that Trenton is in the national emergency. Consider all the lead that we are around, and not only lead, other materials. And federal department they suggest to federal department help. But what about our local department that is messy? I give you an idea. Get back in the, because our local department, not even director, health department, we have it. We need to work together and find the right help for our children, our schools. And I have another idea that I'm gonna send it to Mr. About translations in Spanish that came to me right away this night. But And the last one, many children are in the house having class. St.
I'm
Mary's
sorry, you have 30
Cathedral.
seconds. Perdón.
Okay. St. Mary's Cathedral School, close one school, is open. You can switch this grand school for that building too. It's another idea that maybe you can consider and have the children in the school, Easter in the house. Good night.
Thank you. Mrs. Yarisa Roldán.
Superintendent, Board President, ladies and gentlemen of the Board of Education. For years, Waldemar Ronquillo have stood before you as a tireless advocate for the Latino community within our city. He has seen the struggles and aspiration of our people firsthand, particularly within our public schools. Today, I address you with a plea for equity and inclusion everyone in this room talks about. Equity inclusion for getting the 64% of this public school district. As it stands, our board education meetings are conducted solidly in English and broadcasted in the same language. Yet, let me remind you that 64% of the parents within our school are Latinos. These families deserve equitable access to the vital information disseminated during these meetings. I want to take a moment to highlight the efforts of someone who understood this need deeply, Wilfrido Ortiz. Before his retirement, Ortiz championed and initiated broadcasts of these meetings in Spanish. His dedication ensured that Spanish-speaking families were informed and included in the decision-making process that impact their children's education. However, since his departure, it pains me to say that his hard work seems to have been cast aside. It's been 1.5 years, and still our Spanish-speaking families are left waiting in the shadows, lacking the same level of information and engagement that their English-speaking counterparts enjoy. This that's one of the reasons we need a translator in here. It's not, it's not just an oversight. It's a profound injustice. And I repeat, ladies and gentlemen of the board, it is a truly profound injustice when you talk about inclusion. Education is the cornerstone of opportunity, and denying access to crucial information in a language our families understand is tantamount to deny them that opportunity. We cannot ignore the fact that language barriers are a significant obstacle to meaningful engagement in our educational system. By neglecting to provide essential information in Spanish, we are effectively shutting the door on the voices and concerns of the majority of parents within our schools. It's time for action. It's time for our board education to reaffirm its commitment to equity and inclusivity by restating broadcasts of our meetings in Spanish. The public schools in Camden are doing it. The public schools in Vineland are doing it. Our Latino families deserve to be informed, heard, and respected, just like any other member of our community. Let's honor the legacy of Wilfrido Ortiz by continuing his work and ensuring
You have 1 minute left.
that every family, regardless of language spoken, has equal access to the information that shapes their children's future. As you may see, I have, it brings me bad moments standing up here. I know I still have a few seconds right now. I would like to address the bullying to schools, and this is for Mr. Terrence Stocks. Any complaint of harassment, threats, cyberbullying should be investigated by school officials, even if it's not race, color, gender, sexual orientation, disability, and only make a decision if it is bullying or conflict after a proper investigation. I really would like to see that. It says that it only takes one person to make a change, and I really want to do that. So you will see me every single meetings.
Time is up, thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, I only have the first name, Vanessa, from the New Beginnings House program. Vanessa? Next, Miss Talithia Duncan.
Good evening, Superintendent Earl, President Marrero Lopez, board members, and members of the Trenton community. I initially planned to speak on an entirely different topic this evening, but because of some rather shocking information, I had to entirely revamp my entire speech. It may come as a surprise to many of you, as well as the members of the Trenton Education Association, but I am making this following announcement with a somber spirit and humility in my heart. I'm just kidding. Laugh. I am happy to report that the Trenton Education Association and the Trenton Board of Education have a tentative memorandum of agreement that was signed at 5:27 p.m. today. Well, that's what you get for making us sit through those 2.5 hours of presentations. Anyway, I would like to take this time to say thank you and give my heartfelt gratitude to Mr. James Roll, Mr. James Earl, Dr. John Gendon, and our respective negotiations teams for their tireless efforts in keeping the lines of communication open so that we could settle on a contract that is not only fair and equitable, but is also reflective of our shared values and aspiration. Through constructive dialogue and mutual respect, and even when we thought we weren't going to get the job done at the last mediation session, I can say our team and Mr. Roll made sure that we stayed until we got a final resolution. So kudos to them on that. The Trenton Education Association will be planning our ratification meeting in the coming weeks to share the details of the agreement with our members, and we are confident that the board will ratify on their end at the March meeting. As we move forward, let us remain steadfast in our commitment to uphold the principles of fairness, transparency, and collaboration. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening.
Don't leave. Don't going? Stay with us. Where are you going? But you're adults. You're adults. Yes. Yes. Well, we still have two other. Quickly, quietly, please. Can we please have Ms. Cheryl Snyder from the East Trenton Collaborative and Let Free New Jersey organization come up? Ms. Snyder, yeah, there she goes.
Hello, good evening, board. Sherelle Snyder, community organizer, and resident in the East Trenton neighborhood. So there's 3 points I just wanted to make. We all know that EPA has been here and they talked about the lead in the soil. Well, I'm here to just talk about 3 points. Testing, eliminating lead exposure, and access to healthcare. So we need to know it's universal law in the state of New Jersey that our children be tested for lead exposure at the ages of 1 and 2. When COVID came into play, all of that stopped. So our children are not being tested. And we would like to know with the health department, when do they expect to start testing for children with elevated blood lead levels? So the exposure, to eliminate the exposure to lead, we have to do more with the housing stock that we have. Our housing is pre-1978 homes where we know we have chipping, peeling, paint, and we let our landlords, these landlords, put our mothers and their babies in these places. That exposure needs to stop. We need to fix that. Another exposure, that's the lead in the paint. Another exposure that this lead gets into our children's bodies is through the water. We need to change these lead service lines. We started in 2018, the money ran out, and the work stopped. But in the meantime, we have these lead service lines that are corroding and either made of lead or galvanized pipes. And as that water is entering our homes and our children are going to the water the water faucet, or mothers going to the faucet to put water into their baby bottles for their formula. And if those lines are old, which most of them are, and they're corroding, there's pieces of lead chipping into that water as they turn it on. You fill up that baby bottle, now that mother takes that baby bottle, goes right into the baby's mouth, so the baby's ingesting it. Now, we're not doing testing at 1 and 2, we don't catch it. We know that those acute, excuse me, I got candy. Those acute lead levels, those are high. The health department can detect those, they can find it, but I want you to know that those chronic low lead levels, they accumulate. And as they accumulate, they do such tremendous damage on our children. It messes on their behavior. It messes with their learning. They can't sit still. It's even has some correlation to I don't want to blank. Autism and ADHD. And if we're not catching it fast, we don't know. So, and then it's the lead in the paint, the lead in the water, then we have the lead in the soil, which we are experiencing right now with Grant Elementary School. How many other schools are having this lead in the soil? So remember, we got to catch it early. And I know our children's it's an intermediate, but we need, before the age of 5, this lead is doing damage to our children. We know that our children, they have behavior problems and they have learning problems. But if we can get them tested and find out if they haven't been exposed to lead, then we can get them the help that they need so they don't wind up going to the system, wind up getting an IEP, sent somewhere else, and the next thing, last place I don't want our children are in the jail cells. So we have to do something about that. And the last point, access to health care. Poverty
You have 40
runs
seconds.
deep out here in the East Trenton, in Trenton. There's pockets of poverty. And then when mommies get to one doctor and that doctor tell them, oh, you gotta go to another doctor, it's hard for them to get to where they need to go. We need access for our children to have clinics, mobile clinics. If we need to bring them in and make testing and access to healthcare available. So I yield my time. Thank you. Hi, Jeannie.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time here. Next, Darren Green, but he's left, right? Okay. And lastly, Miss Nikki Baker. Nikki Baker from the New Jersey Work Environment Council, Healthy Schools Now, New Jersey. She's not here. Okay, thank you. In that case, seeing the period for public comments. At this time, I'm going to have our board members make any comments that they may have. Any comments or reactions? This is the time.
It's on.
While you're doing that, just real quick. I really wanted to thank the superintendent for meeting with me today to talk about the need for these translation services. Yolanda and I have been talking about this for a long time, and I know it's on your radar screen, Superintendent. I'm very grateful for that and the research that will be done in order to make this accessible to our families. So I want to thank you.
Okay, so, yeah, I think that this meeting itself, it was long, but very informative. And I really think that our new New Jersey School Boards Association representative, right? She was very thorough, and it was easy to listen to. But the last point is, I'm not sure of what Sister Cheryl's ask is of us about the healthcare for folks in the city. So if we could, try to get in touch with her, but that's what Henry J. Austin, which has been around for 65 years, was founded to do. And you don't have to have, Sister Cheryl, I can't do that. Yeah, I'm sorry. But anyway, there is service around, and folks just need to be made aware that they are there for people who need support. So that was the
Yes,
last
we'll have someone reach out to her
one. Okay.
afterward.
All right, great, thanks. You think that right now?
Okay, something. Yeah, so just a comment. Certainly, I'd like to again acknowledge Hedgepeth Williams students and faculty for a great musical performance. To see so many children with so many different talents and incorporating movement and song and playing of the instruments, just awesome, right? And these are 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, correct? I mean, just awesome. And also, again, as you said, this was a very informative meeting, the ethics training, because there are some things that are new. And so certainly I was very, very appreciative of being able to hear some of those new points, finer points in terms of the ethics presentation. And certainly glad that we did make the announcement about the agreement between the TEA and the Board of Education. I think that's very important. And even though she scared me in terms of what she was about to say, these are very interesting times, and I was like, oh no, we've lost somebody else, right? So again, just want to say a very informative meeting, a long one, but again, I think that some of the points that were made, and I'm glad that we are actively pursuing the translation piece, because that is important, right? We do need to be able to communicate with our families, and so again, whatever we need to do to make that happen, certainly the board is supportive of that. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Austin. Oh, okay.
He wants to go last, so okay. No, I just, when, I got some word about, from the community that we'd have some representation here, and I wasn't sure what that really meant. But when Talithia came up and shared that great news, I was in awe. I think that's one of the first times, Talithia, that has ever happened, where you celebrated with us together as a team with both negotiation committees and all the work that goes into getting that done, specifically here in Trenton, anywhere for that matter, but Trenton specifically because it's somewhat challenging. But I'm so thrilled that we got to this point and we're in a good place. Puts the superintendent in a good place for how he moves the district forward. And that's as a board, how we move the district forward. So kudos to everyone involved in that process, and God be the glory. Thank you so much for getting this work done, Board of Ed Committee, Negotiations Committee, Board President Yolanda Lopez. Great work, my sister. Great job. Great job as a Board President. Appreciate you there. Just a couple of community announcements. One, our Parent Connect, they're having a Using Power School to prepare parent-teacher conferences Tuesday, February 27th. That's tomorrow here in this in Angie Ellis Auditorium. I just want to share that out. If any board members want to come out and meet with some parents and whatnot, but it's for parents using Power School through the Family Community Engagement Department. And then they're also having, Erica Jones was one of our community members on our FACE committee last year, and she still is involved with us, but she's taken a leadership role as a parent leader at the high school in the parent support group. They've been meeting since December 14th, January 9th, January 23rd, February 6th, February 20th. It's gaining momentum there. Again, that's through the Family Community Engagement Department through Parent Connect. Parents Inc. is one of the partners. And I had a chance to speak to Erica. She said things are going really, really well. It's building steam and parents are starting to come out. And she's looking forward to continuing to lead those group meetings with the parents, and they're able to get questions answered and challenges resolved before they get to a higher level of where they sometimes don't need to go. Also, just real quick, the Trio Upward Bound after school program at Trenton High is doing great work with TC and J Bonners. I had a chance to, Stacy Russell Denton is the lead over that Trio program, and I had a chance to go to an event at Mercer County Community College at James Kearney campus. Dan, our county executive was there, Dan Benson and Lucy Waters, as well as Relina Reynolds Jackson and other people, Richard Levy, financial advisor, Ty Robinson, and Trenton Police Detective Tamika Summers, and others were there sharing with the students. And I also shared the impact report from Upward Bound because they helped many of our students, and I shared with many of our board members. This is a great one-page report on the impact that TRIO is having for our students in the district. And this goes great testimony to the superintendent and the great work that he's doing, and the principal at the high school and other schools within the district. But they have a after-school program at the high school they're doing great work with our students. And so I just wanted to share that information with the board to let the board know about the great work that's happening in our district through the leadership of our superintendent and the support team within the administration building and in the schools. So just want to share that information with the board.
Great.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
What time is the Hedgepath Williams thing Thursday?
10.
Wednesday.
Starts, there are several events, but it starts at 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. They have the marker ceremony out in front of the building. At 11, it's a student and presentation, performance, and then at 12, it's the luncheon.
Okay,
And
thank
then
you.
it ends, I think it
Yeah,
ends at 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Wednesday.
Yes,
28.
Wednesday.
The 28th.
Second. Yeah, so, sent those who responded to me. So I have the names.
Right, but you did, I believe that he sent you guys an email.
Oh, yes, yeah, I sent it in email,
Yeah.
the
You have all
details.
that information in your emails.
Okay.
I know.
I'll be there.
Okay.
responded. I responded, Denise
Yes,
responded. I didn't know
yes.
see anybody else respond. Yes.
Oh, well, yeah, okay.
I'm going with it.
So you guys
Okay.
have to respond on the email. Okay? Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to acknowledge, I know we didn't do it when everyone was here, but certainly don't want the opportunity to pass because we can officially put it on at another meeting, but we did lose someone. I thought that's where Ms. Duncan might be going earlier, but Eric, tell me one more time. So Eric Hill, and I know him as Eric, and he's a tall man like me at Jefferson, custodian, passed away several days ago. And so our hearts are heavy. He was the lifeblood of that, opening that school and being just a supporter of all the kids. And if you read some of what they wrote about him being their mentor and being able to go to him, it's just awesome testimony to the work being done around our district. But we will miss Eric, and I just wanted to share that with everyone here tonight and in the public.
Thank you.
And it just goes to, it just goes to show that even if you are quote unquote, even in it, and I say that in quotes, a custodian, you have such an impact on our children. It doesn't matter what it is that you do in the school. If you are in the school, you have the potential to be a great influence over the lives of our children. So our heartfelt condolences to the family, and at the same time, thank you to all those who are not highlighted as working with the children and truly do work with the children. So thank you.
Building off of the conversation about the Hedgepath Williams event that's happening on Wednesday, I would be remiss and derelict in my duties if I didn't highlight the fact that this is indeed Black History Month. All right, no applause for that. All right, cool. I'm glad. It's been 80 years since that decision, that monumental decision. Yep, 80. Yeah, that's what I said. Okay. No. Anyway, one thing I just wanted to highlight is Black history that was made specifically here in Trenton. I know we do a lot of work specifically, talking about college readiness and career readiness, and I specifically wore this Howard University, crew neck, right, to shout out Black history here being made every day, But some of the historical figures that give me inspiration, right? Dr. Henry J. Austin, who was a proud Howard graduate as well. Clearly the Hedgepath and the Williams family, Ike Williams, Dr. Reverend Howard Woodson, who went to Cheney and Morehouse, Darlene, I guess you did too. Darlene McKnight, Dr. Crosby Copeland, who went to Grambling University, Dr. Jack Washington, who was an institution teacher here, Janine Stubblefield, even to historical figures like David Dinkins, another Howard graduate. There's a trend that's going on here. And even though he went to Hampton University, Mayor Doug Palmer, the other HU, all right? But it's really just, we have a dearth of talent here, right, in Trenton. Not just our Black community, obviously our Latino community as well. I know there's going to be a celebration at Cooper's at the end of the month, but wanted to take a moment and really just celebrate the history that we have, not just nationally, but specifically in our backyard, in our hometown.
If there are no other comments or questions, we will move on and open up the table for any discussion or questions that you may have on our consent agenda. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda?
Great job on those course catalogs.
Great job on the course catalogs, yes.
We'll do it for next year, 25.
Okay. Then may I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Yolanda Lopez,
Yes.
Gerald. Jean Bowie,
Yes.
Denise Johnson,
I'm going to recuse myself from the matter involving Trenton Free Public Library and say yes to the remaining, what do you call them, activities or recommendations, so.
Austin Edwards,
Yes.
Jeannie Weeklam,
I'm going to recuse myself from anything to do with Grant School. And yes.
Addie Daniels Lane,
Yes.
Sasa Matanya.
Yes.
Barry Trailer,
Yes.
I need to make a correction on the minutes from. No, don't pass it yet. No. I need to amend my yes vote with a stipulation, or I wanted to reflect that I should not have voted on the matter of the Trenton Housing Authority option agreement. I've been recusing myself and from those conversations because there's a possible conflict. So
It's not possible.
no, not this vote, but doesn't it? Right, right, because it concerns the minutes, and so I need that change to occur. So my yes from last board meeting should be a recusal. So now. Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act. Oh, no, yeah. Why do we have new business after this, actually? You know what, I have new business, and it was listed after the executive session, but I'm going to move it up. So before we go into executive session, I did want to request a motion to have the Facilities Committee initiate the process of the renaming of the Twilight High School so that it would best reflect, one, the fact that it is a comprehensive high school, not an alternative high school, and two, that it best reflect the new function of the school as a small learning community for business professionals and entrepreneurship. So if I could please have a motion.
So moved.
Second. I'll be second. Be second and a half.
If there are any questions, this is the time to ask the questions before we.
supposed to answer before this. No, you're not supposed to. We just had our training, just like this
Okay.
lady clarify hers, I get mine clarified.
One of the things, just one quick thing, I think may
She said
help,
supposed to go
may help us as we vote on the motion
You
to
need to come to our class.
change the name. Could we also add that the Facilities Committee take action at this point to
That would be
move
my
forward?
next,
Okay.
after this,
Okay,
after the, after the
Okay.
motion passes.
okay. Oh, got you. Understood.
Roll call?
Roll call.
Yolanda Lopez.
Yes.
Gerald Trueheart. Jean Bowie.
Yes.
Denise Johnson.
Yes.
Austin Edwards.
Yes.
Jeannie Weeklam.
Yes.
Addie Daniels Lane. Sasa Matanya.
Yes.
Larry Trailer.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Next, as president, policy says that I can name an ad hoc committee for the naming of the high school, and I propose that we leave that to the Facilities Committee because we're not going to be naming this school after anyone. So, Facilities, you're in charge of this.
Okay. I got it.
Of the process.
We've
of
been there.
naming.
Yeah.
Facilities is why. The policy.
You're good. We're just gonna follow the policy.
Policy
Yeah.
7250.
Yeah,
Regulations.
Yep. We'll follow the policy and the guidelines
as vague as it is.
as is. You don't need any extra.
No.
Just appoint the facilities
No, we
manager to
don't.
work.
No, would
Yeah.
have, okay, I understand. I thought I would have to motion to suspend it for this event, but as we looked at the policy itself, it was not necessary, and so that's why
Yeah.
we're doing it this way. Okay, then we are ready to move on to executive session. Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act codified as NJSA Paragraph 10:4-6 permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting under certain circumstances, and whereas the Trenton Board of Education is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, indicated as follows: any material considered confidential by federal law, state statute, or court rule, any pending or anticipated litigation or contract negotiations to which the board is or may become a party to, and any matter falling within the attorney-client privilege to the extent that confidentiality is required to preserve the attorney-client relationship and allow the attorney to exercise his ethical duties as a lawyer, namely on matters captioned as invoices, negotiations update, MM versus Trenton Board of Ed, TL versus Trenton Board of Ed, LC versus Trenton Board of Ed, distribution of property, and board grievance number 05-23-10-032. Now therefore be it resolved by the Trenton Board of Education, County of Mercer, State of New Jersey, that an executive session will be held on February 26, 2024 for the statutorily permissible purposes indicated in this resolution. Be it further resolved that action may be taken by the board when it reconvenes in open session. Be it finally resolved that the minutes of the executive session with regard to the above subject matter shall be disclosed to the public at a later date and to the extent that the same is not prejudicial to the interests of the parties involved, no longer adverse to the public interest, or does not endanger any individual's right to privacy. May I have a motion to go into executive session?
Second.
Who's here so moved? Denise. Oh, God. Okay. Roll call, Yolanda Lopez.
Yes.
Gerald Trueheart. Jean Bowie. Denise Johnson. Austin Edwards. Jeannie Weeklam.
Yes.
Addie Daniels Lane.
Yes.
Sasa Matanya. Larry Trailer.
Yes.
Motion passed. Adjourn to executive session. That's why I have to use the form. Don't tell me, they said, once you do this, you should not be going.
Trenton Board of Education. Meeting. Okay. Yeah. Okay. May I please have a motion in reference to invoices?
I move to pay invoices associated with CW versus Trenton Board of Education -QN 4917 in the amount of $5,176.50.
I second.
Roll call, Yolanda Lopez.
Yes.
Gerald Trueheart. Jean Bowie.
Yes.
Denise Johnson. Austin Edwards.
Yes.
Jeannie Weeklam.
Yes.
Addie Daniels Lane.
Yes.
Sasa Matanya.
Yes.
Larry Trailer.
Yes.
Motion passed.
May I have a motion? Thank you. May I have a motion to approve
Yes. I move that we approve MM on behalf of MM versus the Trenton Board of Education.
Second.
Roll call, Yolanda Lopez.
Yes.
Gerald Trueheart. Jean Bowie.
Yes.
Denise Johnson.
Yes.
Austin Edwards.
Yes.
Jeannie Weeklam. Addie Daniels Lane,
Yes.
Sasa Montana, Larry Trailer.
Yes.
Motion passed.
May I have another motion for TL versus Trenton Board of Education?
So moved.
I second.
Yolanda Lopez.
Yes.
Gerald Trueheart. Jean Bowie.
Yes.
Denise Johnson.
Yes.
Austin Edwards.
Yes.
Jeannie Weeklam. Addie Daniels Lane.
Yes.
Sasa Montana, Larry Trailer.
Yes.
Motion passed.
And may I have the last motion in reference to grievance number 0523100032? Motion?
I second the motion.
Yolanda Lopez.
Yes.
Gerald Trueheart. Jean Bowie.
Yes.
Denise Johnson.
Yes.
Austin Edwards.
Yes.
Jeannie Weeklam. Sasa Montana. Addie Daniels Lane.
Yes.
Larry Trailer.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Motion to close this
So moved.
meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. We have one.
Opposed? Okay, now I need this to go. I know, these people are.
No, I couldn't stop laughing.